Hello everyone and welcome back to Commonwealth from the Nintendo Switch, and with it the Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild is turning 3 years old. Nintendo has done most things right since then, though there is still some improvement potential. However, before we get into the giant success stories of the Nintendo Switch and Breath of the Wild since March 3rd, 2017, be sure to leave this video a like, subscribe and hit that notification bell for all notifications to not miss any of our upcoming content.
So, with such a great legacy as the Switch already has, where do we begin? Well, how about at the beginning? Makes sense, right? Regardless, let's take a brief look back at the past. The reveal of the Switch was a totally unexpected move. In fact, after the Wii U and its poor sales performance, we didn't really have much of a clue as to where Nintendo would go, or really, where they could go after such a failure. The rumours of a Project NX would eventually surface, leaks were popping up every day, and it would eventually all be confirmed by Nintendo, evolving into the name we all now know, the Nintendo Switch. Immediately on first trailer, we were all amazed with what Nintendo was aiming to do here. Bridge the gap between traditional consoles and portable handhelds. It was, and still is, one of the most ambitious goals of any modern video game system. Then the date was set, March 3rd, 2017. As far as console launches go, the Switch had a respectable number of games on the day, but not anything to go absolutely wild about. Instead, Breath of the Wild would easily steal the stage, taking Zelda to arguably its peak of gameplay, mechanics, story, and presentation. However, Conrad will have plenty to say about that later on in the video. With the Switch more or less a Zelda machine for the first few months, this seemed to be enough until Nintendo got the ball rolling for real. Some of the Switch's biggest games started to come out as time went on: Splatoon 2, Mario Odyssey, Xenoblade Chronicles 2, Smash Ultimate, Super Mario Maker, and Pokemon Sword and Shield, just to name a few. Oh, and let's not forget, in proper Nintendo fashion, the totally unexpected Nintendo Labo. Making cardboard fun in 2018? That's something only Nintendo could really do. Regardless, the Switch quickly built itself a respectable library of awesome games, some of which we could have never expected. I mean, Doom, The Witcher 3? If you told me they were coming out on Switch, I'd have said you were crazy. Yet here we are. It's a reality now. These games were, for the most part, direct upgrades to their prequels too. Mario Maker 2 greatly expanded on the first one, bringing even more creativity to the formula. Splatoon 2 brought new game modes, weapons, ways to play, etc. Smash Ultimate made the roster ridiculously big. Mario Odyssey was just, wow, everything was amazing. Pokemon Sword and Shield, it made new Pokemon and new stuff. Yeah, that'll do. However, while the Switch had amazing momentum and success as it grew, it wasn't without its fair share of problems either. Namely, the extremely frustrating Droidcon drift issues that weren't dealt with in exactly satisfactory ways, shall we say. Additionally, Nintendo Switch Online sparked massive controversy, not allowing cloud saves on every single game, as is the standard of virtually every other console of the modern age. Speaking of virtually, the virtual library. Not exactly everyone's cup of tea, is it? I mean, NES and SNES are fun, but I think we could all expect something a little more in this day and age. 30-year-old games aren't really as fun as they used to be. Although I think GameCube would have been a nice touch. The cloud save issues particularly manifested with games like Splatoon 2 and Animal Crossing New Horizons. Games that you can invest so much time into and yet not have any save security. While New Horizons has its own sort of save restore feature going on, that you can only use once by the way, these concerns about cloud saves in general have never really been addressed. Even so, this didn't stop sales in the slightest, and the Switch remains one of the best-selling video game consoles ever, at over 52 million sales so far, beating out the Xbox One and even the original SNES. Oh, and let's also not forget the hardware revisions we've seen released over the life of the Switch so far too. We've got the more discreet upgraded version, which was basically the same but with better battery life. Then we have an all-out new variant altogether, the Nintendo Switch Lite, taking the Switch, making it cheaper, and building it for purely handheld experiences. A nice choice if you're just wanting the console for that purpose and want to save some money. Simply put, the Switch just outright appeals to gamers as a whole. It offers a whole new level of convenience. The fact that it doesn't tie you down to a TV, allows you to take it with you on the go, it's an adaptable experience that works well with any schedule. Whether you're a casual gamer or more serious, the Switch has a game to match your taste and the versatility to make it as comfortable as possible possible. Literally, by design, the ability to take out the Joy-Cons, use them wirelessly, attach them to a grip, or upgrade to a Pro Controller. It's a great way to design a system, really. The Switch has changed the way we play games and really expanded our options when it comes to the way consoles have offered their controls and experiences as a whole. The Switch is classic Nintendo going against the grain. Sure, it doesn't always work out, we know. However, the Switch, it's wildly successful.
Did you really think we could end like that? Since The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild also turns 3 years old, and it deserves equally as much space as the Nintendo Switch. Since this modern masterpiece has climbed its way to the top both when it comes to the best-selling Zelda games and deservingly won the award for Game of the Year at the 2017 Game Awards. However, instead of once again praising its groundbreaking game mechanics and physics engine, I would for the next 5 minutes or so rather talk about Breath of the Wild's impact on Zelda, Nintendo, and the gaming industry. First and foremost, the scale and organic approach to its open world, which still has not been surpassed. In many ways, there are a lot of firsts for Breath of the Wild. It was the first new mainline Zelda game launched in HD, it was the first entry in the series with a big expansion pass, it was the first Zelda and Nintendo game to win the biggest award at the Game Awards, and it is the first Zelda game to surpass 15 million sold copies worldwide. In fact, the first ever Zelda expansion pass was not enough for Eiji Aonuma and the rest of the Zelda team, who were already working on a third DLC pack, which soon grew out of proportion and resulted in the development of Breath of the Wild's sequel. The Zelda team had way too many ideas to fit into one Zelda game, thus we're getting the first direct Zelda sequel set in the same Hyrule instead of a different parallel or imaginary world. The fact that we with confidence can sit here today and show you footage from Breath of the Wild's sequel in itself speaks volumes of the long-lasting legacy and impact of the Zelda team's dedication to creating an open-air experience like no other. Now it seems like the sequel will be more story-heavy and most likely more linear than the nearly completely boundless Breath of the Wild, but that is in many ways expected, in part since Breath of the Wild challenged the Zelda timeline itself by expanding greatly on its established lore, bringing back a number of races we hadn't seen for decades, and much more. Some of them, like the Sheikah, were more alive than ever in this game. No doubt, Breath of the Wild's upcoming sequel will certainly expand on Breath of the Wild's accomplishments, but at the same time fixing some of its shortcomings like lack of proper dungeons and variety of these, variety in boss and enemy designs, and fragmented storytelling. Perhaps we will even be able to switch playing as Link and Zelda as they slowly but surely confront Ganondorf to bring the ultimate battle in the series. That is still to be decided and revealed. Anyhow, we have plenty of videos on Breath of the Wild's sequel, and we all know how important it and its original are for Nintendo and the Zelda franchise. In fact, for the entire gaming industry, as we have seen mechanics from Breath of the Wild rip over the other recent games, and for good reason, as they are all game mechanics that make games better. The only other game comparable to this level of impact on the industry is a different Zelda game, Ocarina of Time, which inspired the open worlds of so many games in the 2000s. However, inspiring and bringing over single mechanics in other games is one thing. Cloning all of them from Breath of the Wild is a whole different beast. This is exactly why Genshin Impact is on the borderline of what is acceptable to straight off ripping off. Luckily, during PAX East I had the opportunity to finally try the game, and yes, it feels and plays like Breath of the Wild, only in a somewhat different setting. Naturally, I have mixed feelings on this, especially when animations of near everything and enemies are literally the same as in Breath of the Wild. I have to admit, I love this gameplay, but Breath of the Wild appears to have something that this game doesn't have, namely a soul. Since the open world of Genshin does not feel as rich and vibrant as Breath of the Wild, and does not share the organic feeling of interacting with nature. This is in part due to the very complex physics engine found in Breath of the Wild, and most likely Breath of the Wild 2, but not in Genshin. By all means, this isn't a deal breaker, as thankfully Genshin does have its own gameplay mechanics that are not found in Breath of the Wild, such as switchable characters and some special powers. At the same time, the lack of originality is clear, and that this Chinese developer is just taking advantage of Breath of the Wild's great success and impact over the last 3 years. But at the same time, there's something more here. In fact, I hope to share more details on the game in the future, even doing a game versus game episode between Breath of the Wild and Genshin Impact, which has clearly been impacted by Zelda. At the very least, it's also coming to Nintendo Switch, so there is that. Anyhow, a big congrats to Nintendo Switch and Breath of the Wild on the 3rd anniversary. We all knew that the launch of this system would change our lives, but not by how much. For many of us, it's hard to go back to playing games exclusively on a big screen, and for good reason, as thanks to the Nintendo Switch, console gaming has been brought out of living rooms and basements to pretty much everywhere we like. To the bus, train, car, plane, deep outdoors, even out in space as shown in the Nintendo Switch Lite reveal.
People who would otherwise not have played console games are able to thanks to the Nintendo Switch, and it doesn't come as a surprise that more and more games like Witcher 3 and Doom Eternal are being ported to the system, and many more are being demanded as we speak, the most prominent of that being Kingdom Hearts, but there are still some Wii U games that we really want to have on the ultimate home console and handheld hybrid, specifically the Legend of Zelda Wind Waker HD and Twilight Princess HD, and maybe even Super Mario 3D World. Other than that, we have every Wii U game that we want on the Nintendo Switch, and we can't wait to see how the system will perform in the next 3 years to come. With incredible games like Breath of the Wild 2 and Metroid Prime 4, perhaps we will also see a Nintendo Switch Pro. But until then, make sure to leave a like on this video. And if you haven't already, subscribe and press that shiny notification bell for all notifications. We hope you enjoy your Nintendo Switch and Breath of the Wild experiences, and we can't wait for Breath of the Wild 2. Naturally, we will continue to make more videos on all of these, and until then, why not check out our Patreon? Patreon.com/commonrealm, and if not that, then one of these two awesome videos. Thanks so much for watching.